the dad on this story. WFAA has the report out of Lewisville.
Speaking of, two North Texas parents say their son is recovering from a traumatic hazing incident carried out by his football teammates in Lewisville ISD.
They say seeking accountability has been like a full-time job since learning their teen was hurt and humiliated in a hazing in mid-October.
Meeting with administrators, emailing, following up with the police detectives, and not getting anywhere.
Flower Mound parents Amy and Doug are going by just their first names to protect their son's identity, providing this video of the incident. They say it happened after a football team dinner. The junior stripped of his clothes by a group of seniors and shot repeatedly with a pellet gun.
Did he say how painful that was?
He said it was so painful. And you can hear by the screams.
He's woken up several times in the night. Don't shoot, don't shoot.
Lewisville ISD said it conducted an extensive investigation involving interviews with more than 90 students and staff, as well as 13 families who came forward. The district says it did not find evidence of systemic hazing, but it did find a history of hazing incidents among a small group of student athletes. The Double Oak Police Department would not confirm the status of its case, but emails from detectives to the family, shared with WFAA, indicate a criminal investigation is underway. Just not fast enough for Doug and Amy.
When will you be able to say the job is complete?
I think when arrests are made and when administration takes further action with the leadership.
A job they never asked for, and one they're not ready to quit until their son sees justice. In Flower Mound, I'm Luke Clary.
So you hear the kid in the background screaming. And the first question I have is, isn't hazing kind of voluntary? Like, isn't it something you could avoid if you wanted to? Isn't it something you could stop if it really got out of hand? You know, the fact that you couldn't see, but they were either in a really big garage with a high ceiling, or they were in like a separate General Steel building, like a regular old pavilion, maybe like a dad's workshop in the backyard. But there was quite a bit of room. I think there was a pool table there, and he didn't have his shirt on. He was just running around in his drawers, and he got shot a few times with a pellet gun. Now he's screaming and dodging, but here's a couple things you don't see in the video. You don't see him go up and punch the guy that is shooting him with the gun. You don't see him run out of the room to avoid future shots. He's just kind of protecting his face and lifting his leg and sort of kind of doing the Heisman pose almost as sort of like a defensive move. And so why wouldn't you leave the scene if it really is so bad that it's a crime? You can't just walk out the door. You can't run out the door. How do you get naked in the first place? Or he's not naked. He's wearing his drawers. But how do you let them take your clothes off in the first place and then continue to be there? How did you go to their house or get in this situation after the football dinner? This all sounds voluntary up to the point to where they took it a little too far. And now they're saying people need to be arrested. Next question. Why blame the school? This wasn't a school event. This wasn't on school property. This wasn't done by school employees. These guys happen to go to the same school. They happen to play together on the school football team that seems to be the basis for the hazing. But what the hell is the school supposed to do about it? They supposed to police their kids even when they're not on campus, just 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when they're in their dad's garage at 9:30 or 10:30 at night? So the question we have to ask in all of these situations is, when does hazing become a crime? Because, look, you can imagine, we've probably talked about this before on WBAP and through the 2 decades of the James Show past. And one of the defining characteristics that I think most of us can agree on is when there's something done that wasn't agreed upon before. When there's something that's done that there wasn't consent for. If you consented to get shot with the BB gun, and you thought maybe they were just going to shoot you once and they shot you 4 times, I don't know if that's a crime. But I think some people are just against hazing because they don't get it. I think a lot of women don't get hazing, and I think a bunch of beta males don't get hazing. But hazing is something that comes with the territory throughout man culture, throughout all of history. I think about the hazing that was described by Chris Kyle in American Sniper. Remember that movie? Well, it was based on a book that he wrote about his tours. And when he was going through the Navy SEAL training, the hazing that they did, brutal. Absolutely brutal. They'd beat the crap out of each other. It would almost always end with someone being choked unconscious. And part of me, the stupid animal man part of me, thought that was kind of fun. I wish I had some friends that would, we could beat each other up and choke each other out every once in a while. Heck, some of my friends get upset when I don't text them back fast enough. So, I don't have answers to this because this is one of the reasons I like this story. There's a lot of gray area here. Did this hazing get out of control? I don't know. What did they agree to beforehand? How did it get to that situation? Because people have tried to haze me, and if I'd have been in that situation, I know exactly how I would have reacted. They'd have said, James, take your clothes off. I said, no. Well, just take your shirt off. No. What are you going to do? We're going to shoot you with this pellet gun. No, you're not. Yes, we are. And if they tackled me and took my clothes off, the second I got up, I would either start punching people or grab a cue stick and start swinging it like a baseball bat, crack it over somebody's head, or I'd run out the door and just take off. If I couldn't physically win the confrontation that I could have started, I would remove myself from the situation. You can't haze me. So I don't know. Of course, it's easy for me to say I'm not in that situation. I don't know what all the parameters are. You're right. But those things hurt. I've been shot with a pellet gun. In fact, I remember the first time I shot my friend Chad with the pellet gun on accident, with BB gun. Hit him in the stomach. Man, he cried crazy. And I was like, well, it didn't even break the skin. He's not bleeding. It just left the red spot. And so in order to sort of learn my lesson, I know this sounds stupid, but I turned the gun on myself and shot myself in the shoulder once just to see what it felt like. Oh my God, it hurt so bad. And it was just, it wasn't even like a real gun, because don't think of anything like this. It's just like a thump. Still. Okay, I get it. It hurts. It hurts really bad. If I were him and they said, we're going to haze you, and I said, what are you going to do? We're going to shoot with the pellet gun. I would say no. And you couldn't force me into it. But I just have some questions on how voluntary was this transaction? Are these guys not your friends? Do you not trust them? Then why are you hanging out at their house so late at night? Did you not want to take your clothes off? Did they forcibly disrobe you? After you were forcibly disrobed, you didn't leave the situation? I have a lot of questions here. And, this looks bad, but this doesn't look like a crime. And the parents are calling for the kids to be arrested. I think that's a step too far. This is Rick in Waco. You're on WBAP. Hey, Rick.
Hey, what's up, James? Hey, I have a suggestion. Why don't they get someone the kid really respects, take him in another room, kind of privately, and ask him, dude, were you hurt? Were you damaged in this hazing event?
Well, he was hurt and damaged. They had the welts. They had pictures of the welts from the pellet gun, and they were playing it on the news.
I want to know if he feels like he was hurt. And if he wasn't, he says, no, my parents are just blowing this out of proportion. They need to play that to the judge and say, see, there was no damage. Why are these parents coming after these kids? That's just my suggestion, man. So
you think the son's being drug along this path by his parents, or could be drug along this path? Because one thing that
wouldn't you?
Well, no, if my parents wouldn't embarrass me like that. But
I'm either.
Okay, so the dad said the one part of the WFAA report that was great, an important piece of information was he said the son has been waking up yelling, "Don't shoot!" Like he's having nightmares, like there's some sort of mental scarring from your friend shooting you with the pellet gun, and that kind of sounds. If that's true, wow, I can't believe this guy got traumatized by an air gun. But who am I to say what causes mental trauma?
Well, if the son comes up and says, yes, I was hurt, and yes, I'm having nightmares, then he has the right, and they have the right to seek punitive damages against the other kids, as well as, civilly and criminally.
Well, it would have to be punitive damage. There's nothing compensatory there. But okay, that's a good test. Rick would ask the kid himself, not in front of his parents. I don't know if that would help. I think he would still, lie and go along with it. Because his parents would know it was him. This is Brent in Lake Weatherford. You're on WBAP. When is hazing a crime?
James, have you ever stayed up for 5 days without any sleep?
No, we had a contest when I was in college. I went to Bug Tussle Baptist University, and I made it. How long did I make it? I think I made it not far, like 50 hours or something. And the guy who won was Pat. He stayed up for 63 hours.
Well, we were up for 5 days. I was at Texas Tech, won't tell you the fraternity, and it was called Hell Week. And 5 days, you never slept. They'd let you leave at 6 in the morning to go home and, and shower, and you had to shave. You had to be presentable. And all night long, we'd get hazed. We did knuckle push-ups. We did tire rallies. During the day, we worked for churches and schools. We did lawn work. We did all type of things for all these organizations around Lubbock. And at night, these guys, we were dropped off out in the middle of nowhere, umpteen times, and you've got so many hours to get back into town. And so the great thing about it, and we drank a lot of water, we drank a lot of fluids. You had to, work out for sports, intramural sports during the day. And after 5 days without any sleep, and if somebody didn't get back, because everybody went home, you had to do knuckle push-ups till everybody got back, once you were supposed to be back in an hour. I went to sleep that night at midnight when I finally found out I was going to be a fraternity brother, and woke up the next morning at 7 or 8 o'clock, and I had purged everything out of my body. I think I felt the best I'd ever felt for 2 days during Hell Week. And I'll tell you, the fraternity was Alpha Tau Omega, and it was a great experience.
So what do you think of when you hear this story about the kid in Lewisville who's getting shot with the pellet gun? Are you trying to say, a little bit of suffering, a little bit of hardship makes you better?
Well, I don't know. I don't think you can do that, but knuckle push-ups and other things we did, tire rallies. You ever, taking a big truck tire and you went up and down hills. Of course, good thing about Lubbock, there wasn't any hills.
Yeah.
But you did all this stuff in service work during the day, and then and these guys they would mess with your mind at night. They'd talk about your girlfriend.
See, that doesn't sound fun, Brent. I can't believe people voluntarily do this, and I think more people agree with you than me. But I'm a guy you can't haze. So we're going to keep you up for 5 nights. The hell you are. I'm going to go to sleep.
We didn't know that. We never knew when Hell Week was going to end, and that was so intriguing to do that.
It's kind of built into the name, don't you think? You don't think Hell Week's going to last for a week? You heard the dad say that he was hit 8 times. Now that's a lot. That's a lot. I think before the first one, I would have quit. After the first one, I would have started swinging punches or throwing cue balls at people or pool balls, billiard balls at people, or maybe using a pool stick as a baseball bat upside someone's head, because I wouldn't take 8. So reminder, he's going to be on the show at 4:15, and we'll talk to him directly on the James Show. That might be a really awkward conversation, and I know you love that. But the thing that always comes back, and I'm not a legal scholar, to the defining point is consent. That's the difference between most assault and batteries versus I was just having fun. If I go up and I punch someone on the sidewalk, clearly that's assault. That's a battery. I punched them. That's a crime. Why? Because they didn't consent to it. But if me and Mike Traina put on boxing gloves and we get in a ring and we start punching each other, that's not a crime. Why? Because we agreed to get punched in the face. We agreed to punch the snot out of each other. We agreed to something that any reasonable mind would expect could be injurious. Just trying to use a big word. Go with me here. So I can't get in the kid's head, but did he know he was going to get shot with the pellet gun? Did he? Because if he went there knowing he was going to get hazed, if he went there knowing he was going to get shot with the pellet gun, if he knew that when they told him to take his clothes off, there was going to be a pellet gun, and if he knew after the first shot that there was going to be more, if he knew after the 7th shot that there was going to be more, and he still stuck around, how is that hazing? How is that a crime? I guess it's hazing, but how is that a crime? I don't get it. I don't get it. Tom, Flower Mound, you're on WBAP. Hey, Tom.
Hey, how's it going there? I'm I know a lot more of the facts. I think you got some of your facts messed up a little bit on this.
Well, I might. Please help me, because it happens all the time.
Right. Well, it had nothing to do with Lewisville. It was actually, from a Flower Mound school.
Okay. I say Lewisville because it was Lewisville ISD. That's all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, anyway, so our son was kind of indirectly involved. He, didn't do anything, but, it's still an ongoing investigation. So, I'm just not going to say a lot, but, this was actually an assault, and it was also a kidnapping.
Well, then that sounds like it's not voluntary. And if it's a kidnapping, then hell yeah, this is a crime.
No, it was completely involuntary. He was coerced over to that house by some of these thugs, and that's all they are thugs. And there was nobody told you that there was 4, 5, 6, 300-pound linemen there that made him take his clothes off, that wouldn't let him leave. And there was 2 different shooters, not just one shooter. There was 2 different shooters. He got shot at over 40 times, and about 10 of them made contact. It was a bad situation.
Explain how does one get coerced into a situation like this? What did you mean by that?
Well, he was told he was going to be buddies. He was an underclassman. They were all seniors, starting varsity seniors on that team, and he was going to get a chance to start. And, some of them didn't like the fact that he was going to get, probably maybe started in their place. So it was kind of maybe a little bit of a vendetta type thing going on. Maybe, I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't want to say a lot.
Okay, so now what you're describing, Tom, isn't even hazing at all.
No, this was far beyond hazing.
Well, it's not even far beyond it. It's not hazing. It's not like some sort of initiation ritual that they put everyone through, and everyone who's going to, wear our jacket has to go through this goofy little thing that we always do.
This went further than bullying. This went further than bullying. This was this was an outright assault and kidnapping, because the guy's car keys was taken away from him and thrown across the road in the ditch, from what I understood. And
okay, well, look, one more question. Why does he stay in the room? If they start shooting at you, why don't you just run out and be like, I'm going to go look in the ditch for my car keys?
Can you take 5 300-pound linemen?
Well, I would be in a fist fight with them instead of getting shot with a gun. Yeah. I mean, I can't take them, but
then you're gonna wind up with broken bones in the ER probably. Either way, you're gonna wind up in the ER. But I don't know. He didn't. This kid, I barely got to know him a little bit. Not everybody has that fighting spirit in them.
All right. Well, if what you described is true, then this is absolutely a crime.
It's 100% a crime, and like I said, Double Oaks was leading the investigation, and every time, I don't know, it's a big fiasco. I mean,
well, Tom, your new information has changed the whole story, because they made it sound like when they say this is a hazing incident, I imagine that the regular, the journey to becoming a varsity football player is the seniors have to do some sort of hazing incident. And I think of like Dazed and Confused or whatnot, when people lined up to go get hazed. And do we all know that reference? Dazed? Have you ever seen Dazed and Confused, Garrett? Dazed and Confused. Thank you very much for your call, Tom. That's a game changer. Tom and Flower Mound's call is a game changer. Well, then this isn't hazing at all. You shouldn't even call it hazing. This is just a straight up assault. This wasn't what the normal football hazing ritual is. This isn't what the kids normally go through. Kidnapping and forcing him to stay there and forcing his clothes off and not letting him leave. Well, now that changes everything. There's no consent at all. This isn't some hazing incident that got out of hand at all. It shouldn't even be reported as such if what Tom from Flower Mound said bears out to be true. So with that, we have the young man's dad, Doug, is joining us on the James Show. And so this has got to be, tough for you to talk about here. So what's your thoughts, first off, on the original report from WFAA, and how accurate is the follow-up information we got from our caller from Flower Mound? Can you fill all that out, Doug?
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show. First of all, I hate we have to meet this way, but I can tell you that this, after digging a little bit further into the investigation, that they tried to get him hazed or initiated 2 or 3 weeks prior to this one event. He went to another team dinner, and the parents would not let the kids out of their sight, and so they weren't able to corner him. And then the next event, he was getting text messages at school saying that he was going to be raped, and we're going to do damage to you. He went to the next week, where he went in and ate and left immediately. And they told the parents, are like, where's Josh going? You don't need to be here. You can leave. And they were trying to get him cornered. In this particular place, the garage was detached from the house, and it was a team dinner, and they were expected to be there. If they don't go to a team dinner, now what the school district is saying, well, it didn't happen on school property, so there's not a whole lot we can do. But if you don't go to the team dinners, you're not a team player, and therefore you don't get to play. They have what's called a brotherhood, and what goes on there stays there. One of the things that's going to come out in this investigation, 2 weeks prior, since they couldn't get a hold of Josh, they got another player. They pantsed him completely naked, rolled his clothes in fire ants, and forced him to clothe with he had over 2,000 fire ants bites. That hasn't come out. There's going to be another video that we've hired a couple of private investigators. And there's another video that's going to be circulating that happened last year, where one of the players literally cold cocked one of the players in the back of the head during a practice, and knocked him out cold. I've got a video of it. I'll send it to you. So the school's saying that they don't have a systemic issue. Well, then how come they didn't do anything for the kid that happened a year ago?
Doug, you have all my sympathy here, except I don't think you should be messing with the school at all. You should just go straight to the cops, make a beeline, and I would leave the administrators. They're not long. About that.
Go ahead. Let's talk about that. So we filed a police report. Double Oak. They've got 9 police officers. I just got off the phone with the district attorney's office. That was a call I made before you. Okay, we filed a police report. A week later, we get a email from Miss Rosa Halfman. She's a detective for the Double Oak Police Department. She says she's busy with civil patrol.
Wait. She's the detective? You said a detective. Yeah, they only have 9 people. Yeah, I mean,
they have 9 people. The average speed in that town is 30 miles an hour. And she goes, it's going to take me a little while to get to this because I have civil patrol. I have traffic control that I have to do. I'll get to it when I can. So I offered her some of my colleagues that are retired law enforcement. They said they'd be glad to help. And she sends me a nasty email that says, I've been in law enforcement for 20 years. I think I can handle this myself, Mr. Turner. I said, well, okay, I appreciate that. Then we met with the assistant chief and her, and she showed us the case. She showed us she's been interviewing the players, and she showed us where a lot of the players wrote no comment. I was like, well, that's interesting. No comment is usually not in the vocabulary of a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. Didn't think a whole lot about it. And then I get an email from her on November 19th. I'll be glad to forward it to you. November 19th, it clearly says that the judge is going to be signing the arrest warrants either today or tomorrow. So we're thinking we're going to see some arrests made. These kids are entitled due process. You're innocent until proven guilty, but we've got to get you in the system. Because everybody else, if they're not in the system, it never happened.
The Double Oak Police Department, are they somehow connected to these kids? Or are they lazy? Are they protecting them? What's the theory?
All of the above. So let's pick up where I last left off when I got the email from Rosa Hoffman. She was the only detective there. She was busy doing, 30-mile-an-hour police patrol, and she couldn't be the detective work. It's just crazy. But anyway, we get an email from her saying that the judge is going to be signing the warrants either November 19th or November 20th. So we're like, okay, it's a 5-minute process. Get them in the system, give them their ability to get in the system, and you're innocent until proven guilty. Well, then a few days goes by, no warrants, no nothing. I call the district attorney's office, and I talk to the victim assistance hotline, beautiful lady by the name of Emily Baker. And she goes, Mr. Turner, they're not even in the system. And I forwarded her the email from Rosa. I said, it said the judge is going to be signing these in the next today or tomorrow. It's like, Mr. Turner, I've never even heard of this. I forwarded him the full unedited videos, and she started crying on the phone because you're seeing the blurred version. You're not seeing the full version of it. And the actual impact and him dropping to his knees and begging for his life. He thought it was a real gun because there was not an orange tip on the end of it. It looks like a 9mm. And not until he shot and he heard it, and then he felt the pellet. It was a pellet gun. And then he knew, hey, okay, so what defines a deadly weapon is if you think it's a deadly weapon when you fire or when you use it as a weapon, then it's a deadly weapon. But being that it's a pellet gun, it was not much to it. And then they shot over 40 times. They landed 8 of the shots and him screaming his head off. And so I was just shocked. She's like, I can't believe we don't have this. And I said, I am blown away. I don't know why. So I call back up to the town hall and I asked to speak to the mayor. And Mayor Jackson answers the phone and calls him. And I said, hey, do you have a minute? And he goes, yeah. I said, can you tell me what's going on with this shooting that was over on down the road from the police department? He goes, oh, yeah, I live right down the road. I go, what? He goes, yeah, I just live right down the road. I said, so, you know, this house that oh, yeah, they're good people. Yeah. I'm like, really? My name is Doug, and my son was the one that was assaulted. He goes, I'll have the police chief call you back. I said, look, I'm all about accountability, transparency, and communication. Sir, if you say you're going to call me back, when's he going to call me back? Today, next week, next year? He goes, he'll call you back by the end of the day. I said, so if he doesn't call me back by 5 o'clock today, what's going to go on? He goes, he'll call you back. He called me back right at closing time. And Chief Miller, and he goes, Mr. Turner, these videos are incomplete. We can't use them. And I said, sir, can I ask you, did you do a protective request with Snapchat? He goes, what? I said, you know what a protective request is, right? That's the first line of protocol in an investigation. Some of my law enforcement gentlemen, friends told me that, men and women, the first thing they need to do is a protective request. And he goes, well, why do you ask? He said, because the defense for these kids are going to ask you where you got these videos, and you're going to say from the victim, and the first thing they're going to do is throw them out. Am I going to have to show you how to do your job? And he would not answer me. I said, well, you at least, if you haven't ordered the protective request, how can you say they're incomplete? They're not incomplete. He goes, well, these things take time and everything else. And I said, so does it take time because your mayor lives right down the road from the perpetrators? Is that what you're saying? He goes, well, Mr. Turner, I just don't appreciate the way you're talking to us. I said, why have these warrants not been signed? Well, you know, we're still doing the investigation. I'm like, all right, if that's the way you're going to go down, that's fine. I said, but here's the deal. Those boys, the next day when they reported these videos to the school, that was a Monday. It happened the Wednesday prior. They called the parents and the kids of the parents up there to the school. The kids were in the locker room the next morning with my son. The perpetrators were. And I said, what the heck's going on, guys? What the video shows it all. Well, we're doing an investigation. They're like, there's nothing we can do because it was an off-school property, so they're entitled to their due process.
You know, I'm kind of okay, sympathetic to that argument. Now, Doug, I hate to cut you off here.
Go ahead.
I'm from a really small town, and I realize this is like a town of 3,000 people, but it's not really the same sort of rural setting where everyone knows everyone that I'm from. At some point, have you gone to the parents of the kids that were doing the shooting?
We're not allowed to. They've already attorneyed up. The first thing they did was let everybody know that they have attorneys. In fact, the perpetrator's dad is a real estate attorney in Fort Worth. He attorneyed up the next day. So whenever the detective went to go talk to him, 13 kids wrote no comment on their reports. Now, it either came from the coach or it came from somebody that was close. Now, Flower Mound Marcus High School is a big town. Flower Mound's a big town. Marcus is a big school. There's 3,000 kids just in that high school. Now, Double Oak feeds into Marcus. Double Oak is very small. It's 3,000 people. They have stop signs. They don't have stop lights. There's only 9 people on the police force. Okay, I understand that you're on limited budget. I get it. But it's not about so much about that. It's about accountability. It's like you tell me you're going to do something and you don't do it. You've done that now a dozen times. You've broken promises. So as we're going forward with this, the school board suspends the boys from the last 2 games of the high school season. Now, if they win the next 2 games, they go to the playoffs. So they do this thing Friday mornings with breakfast with dads. And so when my son was graduated up from JV to varsity, I was invited to the breakfast with dads breakfast. So the first 2 weeks went great. It was awesome. And a motivational speaker. We get there at 5 a.m. We all have Chick-fil-A, donuts, McDonald's, everything else. Well, as soon as they reported it, I go up there. It's a little bit somber in the locker room. We get it. But my son's like, Dad, the parents, the dads of the 3 guys that did this are sitting right behind you. And I turned around and looked at them and I go, what's going on, guys? And they just stared me down, had a few number 1 finger gestures to give to me.
They flipped you off.
Yes.
All right, Doug, look, I don't know if I even need to tell you this, but just the manliness, toxic masculinity is about to volcano out of my head right now.
Well, I keep going. It's getting better.
Well, hang on. Look, I just know in a small town, I would say you fix this or you 3 are going to have problems as long as I'm alive. Period.
I gave them 8 weeks before I called the media. 8 weeks, 2 months. And I looked at the coach and I was like, dude, what is this? Now, what I'm about to tell you is going to drop a bombshell on your listeners.
Why'd they flip you off?
Intimidation. When I looked at him, when I looked at the coach, I go, what is this? Intimidation 101. And my son's like, Dad, don't say anything. Don't do anything. I'm like, okay. So I just played cool. But I want to play you an audio clip. This was the last home game of Marcus's high school team of the home game. And if they win, they get to go to the playoffs. But they had just disciplined these kids and they're in the stands. The boys are in the stands at these games, but they interviewed the coach beforehand. So just listen to what he says about what's going to happen if they make the playoffs.
That our seniors are going to play their tails off, and especially the ones, that have been starters all year, and knowing that this is the last time they're going to go out to Marauder Stadium and defend the M, and so I think that we'll go and compete really, really well. Obviously we're out, man. One more week. We've got our entire starting offensive line. They'll be back if we go to the playoffs, but.
Did you hear that? Hang on, play it again.
We've got our entire starting offensive line. They'll be back if we go to the playoffs, but
they'll be back if we go to the playoffs.
Right.
So this coach had no intention whatsoever to do anything accountability for these kids. So they've been at ISS. The kids will be out of in-school suspension next week.
I hate to cut you off. We're just running out of time here. I don't blame the coach because he has to go off what everyone's saying. And if there's not a warrant, there's not an arrest, there's no charges, there's no indictment, there's absolutely nothing. I
just got off and phoned the district attorney, and I was told that we can't do anything until these kids. So they have an option. They can either have their own arrest warrants created by the Double Oak Police Department and have a judge sign them and have the boys arrested, get them in the system, or they can wait to have them presented to the grand jury. So I just got an email from Rosa this morning saying that she's going to be submitting the packet to them today or tomorrow. I called the district attorney office. They still don't have it. Now, if they present it to the district attorney for the grand jury, do you know how long this could take for them to get arrested?
I do not.
Over a year.
That doesn't sound right.
Oh, no. If you want to call up, her name is Emily Baker. She said, Doug, do not get your hopes up because we have a lot of cases in front of here. They do not want the political backlash. They want to be able to tell the mayor that the district attorney and the grand jury indicted them and not the police department of Double Oak. She goes, this could take up to a year to get this in front of a grand jury. They want to get these kids graduated.
Yeah, the wheels of justice turn slowly, but doesn't sound like they're turning at all for you. What's next, Doug?
Well, the school board, I've been doing World News Tonight's picking it up, the Today Show, Good Morning America. I mean, there's a lot of people getting momentum. And I have a consultation tomorrow. The only thing we can do is turn this over to the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers are our only outlet. They don't take crap off of anybody, and they'll step in. They've already seen it. But in order for you to file a complaint with the Texas Rangers, for them to pick it up, it's got to be from your legal counsel.
Yeah, well, look,
anyway, that's all we have left.
I would say you're beating your head against the wall if you try and do anything through the school, because they have the built-in excuse. If there hasn't been anything legally done, then, what are we supposed to do? We're not judge, jury, and execution over here. And I'm sympathetic to that case, too. But if law enforcement doesn't step up, Texas Rangers doesn't step up, there's still the old man-to-man option. And I think that's probably the worst way that they want this solved. But I mean, I'm sure you've imagined quite a few ways to get some sort of retribution that could keep you out of trouble. I hope it doesn't get to that, because I would be thinking some very evil thoughts if this was my kid.
Yeah. I appreciate that, but I don't go down that path. I don't allow myself the luxury of a negative thought. I work.
Oh, well, you're way better than me. I have negative thoughts all the time.
But you know what? The kids are going to get due justice. If it comes back as a no bill with the grand jury, if it comes back as that, then they're going to have to live with this. It's going to be a media blitz if that's the case, because of the racial slurs and everything that's going on. And these boys, if I gave them 8 weeks, I told the school board, I said, if you do the right thing, I said, how come you guys, they sent out the findings and they're not even close. They admitted there was hazing, and they admitted that there was sexual indecency with the minor.
All right, we're out of time here, but dude, I don't know why you're so nice, because I think a lot of dads who are in your situation, if they were being treated the same way, it would be completely reasonable for things to start catching fire, for things to start blowing up, for cars to catch fire, for bricks to go through windows, for people to be followed. If the law doesn't want to take care of this, the consequences are worse.
My granddad once said, I've been called worse things by better people.
What a terrible story. I'll try and keep up with this. Thank you for sharing, Doug.
The James Show Podcast.